Salutations, viewers. My name is GameDame, and welcome back to another one of GameDame Reacts. So, Elden Ring is the newest game coming from FromSoftware, and I am very, very, very excited to see what this game is going to entail. So, this is a really long trailer. It's about 8 minutes long, and it's the trailer breakdown. So, we're gonna get help from creator Hidetaka Miyazaki for the Elden Ring trailer breakdown.
Fully tarnished. Playing as a lord. I command thee now.
We have very quickly gone from having absolutely zero information on FromSoftware's hotly anticipated Elden Ring to having just so much information about Elden Ring.
Right?
I was fortunate enough to talk with the godfather of Souls himself, Hidetaka Miyazaki, who gave me a huge amount of information on the game that totally recontextualizes what we saw in the most recent trailer. Here's what's really going on in the lands between.
I can't wait.
And they will die.
I never do trailer breakdowns, but this is
Unending curse.
the next FromSoftware game.
The trailer opens up in a very typical Souls-like fashion, with a softly spoken woman uttering a very cryptic message.
The tarnished will soon return.
So, who are the Tarnished?
Who are
Well,
they?
For one, it's you. The player character is one of the Tarnished, much like in the Dark Souls games where you are a chosen undead or an ashen one. To explain what it means to be Tarnished, we must first explain a little bit about the world of Elden Ring, known as the Lands Between.
The Lands
And the people who reside within it, both great and small, were blessed by the Elden Ring and the Erd Tree, which symbolizes its presence. Those given grace by the ring are characterized by having a golden aura that's predominantly shown in their eyes. However, after a time, for one reason or another, some individuals lose this grace, and were thus exiled from the Lands Between, labeled as Tarnished.
Oh, okay. So that's who the
Then,
Tarnished
for
are.
reasons unknown, the Elden Ring was shattered. Its pieces picked up and carried by many of the bosses that you'll eventually come to fight in the game. The destruction of the Elden Ring calls out to the Tarnished and compels them to return to the Lands Between, guiding them back to their former home.
Ooh.
According to Miyazaki, one of the main themes of the game is how the players, the Tarnished, approaches or treats this newfound grace and this return to the land that they were once banished from. How they interpret this and the meaning.
Ooh, that's
Miyazaki
an
wants
interesting
the player
look.
to discover for themselves what this return means and how they want to begin their adventure. The Lands Between is broken up into 6 distinct areas, each overseen by a particular demigod who holds a shard of the Elden Ring and has been twisted and warped by its power. I
Makes
asked
sense.
Miyazaki-san if there was
Makes
an order
sense.
to which you must approach these 6 areas, or if the player had total freedom to visit any of them right from the beginning, to which he responded that, while you won't be able to access everything from the start, there are a lot of different ways that you can approach each area. And that there's a lot of freedom as to which order you can tackle different areas as well. There will be a
that
hub
makes
area that
sense.
will link these 6 areas, but it's not accessible right from the start of the game. Miyazaki further clarified that each of the 6 areas will house its own mainline dungeon map, which is seamlessly connected to the Lands Between itself. So, from there you're able to explore these mainline dungeon areas, all of which are interspersed throughout the map.
Like any other Souls game, that's pretty much how it was handled.
And, of course, while you will be using a horse to travel great distances around on foot, or, hoof, there will be a fast travel system as well. Though, of course, Miyazaki's preference is that players enjoyed that aspect of exploration and uncovering the map for themselves.
Wait, this
And
will be
it
the
seems
first
like
time
there
we
will be
use a
plenty of
horse.
incentive to explore as well. Miyazaki confirmed that the skills that you see in the trailer, like this, and this, can be obtained through exploration, much like in the previous games where you would find weapons and magic spells off the beaten paths. Weapon skills can also be interchanged between weapons, and there are more than 100 of them to discover, which Miyazaki hopes, when combined with the many different weapons and magic spells, will offer build customizations that are richer and more varied than ever before. Finally, let's talk about some of these wild enemy designs. The main bosses are demigods who are written by Song of Ice and Fire author George R.R. Martin, and they inherited the mad-tainted power of the Elden Ring shards,
Which is
once it was
so
shattered.
awesome.
One of the things Miyazaki wanted to convey in their designs is that they're not just horrible monsters, but that there's an element of heroism and mythology to them as well, as they're essentially the old gods of this world. Each of the demigods fell to madness and ruin in their own individual ways, and FromSoft's designs aim to showcase this dichotomy of heroism and ruin.
Wow. I love that take on the enemy, because usually it's just straight up like, yeah, it was a big baddie. Not for all of them in the other Souls games, but I'm really
A key
liking
focus
this
in
world.
Elden Ring is to empower the player with a feeling of freedom, not just in the way in which they explore, but also in the ways they approach encounters in various situations. To that end, stealth is now a viable option in certain situations. Like this
Really?
moment from the trailer. You're able to crouch, sneak, and be less easily detected in tall grass. And if you're stealthy enough, you can even bypass certain areas or potentially get to a position where you're able to easily assess situations from afar. Miyazaki says FromSoft wanted to create these opportunities for players to see what lies ahead of them, and below them, and around them, and to assess how they're going to confront that or not, as the case may be. So, stealth, while it is a simple implementation, it allows for a lot more of these possibilities.
Yeah, because
In
stealth
addition to
wasn't
using
always the
stealth,
biggest
another
thing.
key gameplay feature is the ability to summon spirits to aid you in battle. This is nothing new to the Souls series, but
No.
what's different here is that you can actually summon the spirits of enemy characters as allies to assist you in battle. There are a large variety of them, so they're a nice collectible element within the game world to discover and equip as you go. Of course, Miyazaki also made sure to clarify that there would still be online summons where you could bring other players into your world.
Okay,
to
cool,
cooperative play as well.
cool. I would hope they kept that factor, but it is cool you get to bring in
Of
some
course,
enemies
one of the most
as well.
marketed selling points of Elden Ring is George R.R. Martin.
Of
The way
course.
Miyazaki describes it, Martin created Elden Ring's foundations, building up the world's history and mythos, which was subsequently iterated on by FromSoft. For example, Martin created the Tarnished and their Lost Grace, a spurring moment for the player character. But then on top of that, Miyazaki explained, FromSoft built a lot of their own world, story, and gameplay elements that are necessary to the game and necessary to the player's guidance and how they find that footing in the world. Miyazaki
Yum.
said it was a great collaboration, and it was a rather fresh approach for the team. Rather than imposing new restrictions on the game, Martin himself was very open to FromSoftware prioritizing the game's systems and leaving out anything they didn't want to explore, even though that ended up not being the case. Miyazaki explained that Martin's work was a huge source of inspiration and the impetus for the design of the game, so
I love
the world
that.
building and the systems went hand in hand.
That's awesome. George R.R. Martin, like being like part of the storytelling in this
FromSoftware
aspect,
has
just
a
makes
reputation
my
for its unique brand of story told predominantly within the margins. Miyazaki said that this will continue in Elden Ring. We want to retain that sense of the player discovering things for themselves and enjoying uncovering the world both in terms of action and narrative for themselves. We don't want to force anything on the player. That much has not changed.
as it
However,
shouldn't have.
Miyazaki was also keen to express that an ease of understanding is paramount. Elden Ring is more character-focused than previous Souls games. While the player character themselves is a blank slate, other characters will provide a sense of depth and color.
Sorry.
Even with all I learned about Elden Ring in the hour I was given to pick Miyazaki's brain, there are still so many questions.
Oh,
What about
yeah, of
PvP?
course.
How actually does online co-op work? Why does this man have 2 axes, 15 arms, and a bird head that breathes fire as one of those arms?
Don't ask questions.
Like all Souls games, it's best to leave some information to be discovered for yourself. Fortunately, the wait is no longer without end, as Elden Ring is dated for release on January 21st, 2022. Make sure to check out
Yes.
the full interview on IGN for some extra tidbits of information, and for everything else, keep it here on IGN.
That's coming out soon, and I'm assuming it's going to be a PlayStation exclusive, so I'll need to get my hands on a PS5 ASAP. For multiplayer aspect, I would assume it's going to take the same approach as the other FromSoftware games and the other Souls games, where you summon them if you want to do some PvP, or unless like it's just I cannot wait for this fucking game, because I've beaten every single Souls games except Demon Souls, which I need to get a PS5 for to get the remastered. I do have mine on PS3, but I would very much like to have at least the remastered version, so that way I can just play it in the graphics that it was meant to be played in. But also, I really just want to play it in the PS5 version instead. I am so excited for this game. FromSoftware is one of my favorite gaming companies out there, and this is just going to be the tip of the iceberg, especially with George R.R. Martin on the team. Maybe this is why he hasn't finished Game of Thrones, but in general, I am very, very, very excited for this game. Let me know in the comments down below if you guys are as well. But that is all the time I have for you guys today. Thank you guys so much for watching. I highly appreciate your time as always. But please do not forget to subscribe and or follow not only to my YouTube, but to my Twitch. You guys know where my YouTube is at. You can find my Twitch at twitch.tv/thegamedame. Thanks guys, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.